Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Subnet Show. I am your host, Gabriel Cardona, and I'm joined as always by the man with the most cats in crypto, Connor Daly. What is that, my friend?
Oh, not much. I'm really excited. We just put out a new product launch today that I'm super stoked about. So you may have heard of our a partner that we've been working with, Particle, or I think their Particle collection on Twitter. They recently dropped just today their very first NFT collection, which is a fractionalized NFT of a Banksy work of art. And so the artwork they purchased is called Love is in the Air. And they released it as broken up into a grid of 10,000 NFTs. So today you can buy your fraction of a Banksy, your particle, and each particle is actually a square on the painting. And so most of them are white. There's some that have black splotches in them. Others have a little bit of color. The painting itself is a figure throwing a bouquet. And so there's a few different color pieces. It actually lends itself really well to kind of NFT rarities. The white pieces are the most common, the black are more common, and then the colors are ultra rare.
I didn't realize they actually gridded it out. I thought you just owned a 10,000th of it. Do you actually own a
No.
thing?
Yeah, it's gridded. So it's kind of chronological. There's 10,000. I don't remember how many rows there are. I think it's 100 by 100. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty cool.
So that must mean you've been getting tons of sleep. That must mean you've been getting tons of sleep recently.
Surprisingly, yes. I've finally learned to delegate. And also I turned my notifications off and went to bed right before all the disaster struck last night.
Okay.
But I woke up to a resolution. It was a really nice experience. It's never happened like that before.
That's the best ever. Nice. They slept while you were asleep. Okay, sweet. So today we have a very, very special guest. As I've mentioned, since we started the show, the entire purpose of the show is we wanted to connect with all the amazing people in this ecosystem and get their crypto in their journey. And today's guest is an absolute block star and somebody who has been on the journey since nearly the beginning and has contributed an absolute ton of energy. So today we have from Ava Labs, Jovica. What's up, Jovica?
Hi.
You want to say your last name so I don't butcher it?
Jovica Popovic.
Okay, not so bad. Popovic, I could have got that one. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have Jovica. Jovica is from the developer relations team. He works on the same squad, I should say, that I do. And when I mentioned he's been around since the very beginning, he really has been around. I don't know if he was there for the mainnet launch, but he has been around since right after the mainnet. And he actually came to our attention hanging out in Discord, of all places. So he just took on the role of answering people's questions and basically doing developer relations. So it just seemed like a no-brainer to bring him onto the team. Were you around at the mainnet, or how long after the mainnet did you join?
I officially joined Ava Labs in November. So mainnet was September. I joined in November, I think.
Got it. And
I think you might have been like the first one or two hires after me, because I started October 30th. So yeah, you were just right after me. Yeah.
Got it. And then really all of the action didn't start popping off until after the new year anyway, with the launch of Pangolin, right? So for a couple months, what was the bulk of the problems that were being troubleshot at that time? Just figuring out how to set up a full node, or what?
Yeah, back then it was pretty hard to get everything up and running. So one of the first initiatives I did when I came over is I made an install script for the node. Before that, people were downloading the source and trying to compile it themselves, which was a bunch of problems. How do I set up Go? How do I get it to work with GitHub? So I made a install script that basically pulls everything for you from GitHub, installs the node, creates a service, and makes everything basically a one-liner.
Got it. And
so that was one of the major stumbling blocks before that.
And so if you're watching,
so now how would you, so how has your job changed since then? So what are you, for the people who don't know you, what do you do now? What is your role at Ava Labs?
Well, I have sort of a dual role. One is in developer relations, and one is in helping out with our wallet efforts. So mobile wallet and things like that. But basically, most of it is in developer relations, and the bulk of my time is spent on Discord, where I hang out mostly all of my day, and
which is what I was going to say.
And
yeah, I was going to say, if you're watching this, you probably have interacted with Jovica. If you're on Discord, he's pretty much our main dude handling all the stuff there. So if you haven't gotten, what is it, JPop32? Is that what it is?
Yeah,
JPop32. So if you've seen Kramer with JPop32, you've definitely interacted with Jovica. And so, yeah, you also mentioned some magic words there. You mentioned something in mobile wallet. What's that all about?
Well, something that's probably gonna be dropped in. I'm not gonna say.
I was gonna say maybe you should stop talking.
That's just an alpha. We want to just plant the alpha seed.
No ETAs ever.
Yeah, we're just planting the alpha.
Nothing good comes out of that. It's something that's actively being developed, and it's pretty close to being a complete product. And but we need to go through the motions of security audits and everything like that. So, but it's a real product, and it's coming.
And it's needed.
So if any of our listeners are not familiar with you from Discord, I mean, I just want to toss in my personal, I'm super excited to have you on the show. A few months ago when we were in Lisbon, having our Avalanche house, we were having dinner with the team, and we were playing a little question game, and we were asking each other questions. And one of the ones that we asked was, who is the most underrated Ava Labs employee? And we all came very quickly to the consensus that it was you. And just the amount of stuff that you do for the community, you're like such a vital key to everything that we're able to accomplish. So I'm just really excited that we're going to get to introduce your face to the audience a little bit, and hopefully let them get to know you a little bit. And we've got a really cool show planned for you today. So I think we're going to start. We want to talk a little bit about Jovica's background, but we also want to talk about his experience getting hired at Ava Labs and what that means for the community out there, for people who are looking to get hired in crypto, and basically how to get the job in crypto from a few different perspectives, because you came from a very different path. I came from a very different path, and talk about what advice we'd have for any newcomers to the space. So, with that, why don't you tell us a little bit? Tell us a little bit about your journey. You're not American, and you came to crypto a little bit differently than myself or Gabriel.
Yeah. So I'm based in Croatia in Europe. And the way I came into crypto is I was interested. I'm basically interested in everything techie, and so I stumbled upon Bitcoin pretty early, but it didn't really interest me that much. I mean, digital money, it's banks. That's not interesting. So a couple of years later, fast forward to Ethereum coming onto stage, and okay, so what's that? Smart contracts. Well, that's something that's really interesting. So I got into it, played a bit with it, and pretty soon realized that it's not there yet. I mean, this is supposed to be a world computer, and it can make 12 transactions per second. Come on, and it burns that much energy and things like that. So I kind of cooled off on the idea, and then the 2018 crash came and everybody's going out, but I was still following most of the interesting people that I got to know, among others Gun, our CEO now. I noticed him even earlier with the big blocks, small blocks, hash wars, things like that. He was very, very vocal, and when he started talking about the new revolutionary consensus that is coming up, and he distributed the paper, pointed out it. So I came and read it, and my mind was, this solves everything. I mean, this is so cool. And so I started following what he was doing, what was going on with the whole project. And then I heard that they got some investment, and there was a company made in 2019, and they were doing stuff. And then at the beginning of 2020, I think, there was a public testnet. It was not Cedar. Cascade, yeah. The first public testnet. So I got involved, got onto Discord, bought myself a Raspberry Pi as a validator, put it on, played with it. It was pretty bare bones, the system back then. And then there was the Denali incentivized testnet,
which was like the coolest ever. Whoever got in on that, you're so stoked.
Yeah. Basically, you got 2,000 AVAX for playing with the validator for a couple of months, which is kind of the best deal ever. So when that was going on, I really got invested in the system, not monetarily, but with my time. So I started hanging out in the Discord, and as I was there, I was helping people onboard their own validators, and basically helping them get onto the system. So as I was pretty visible there, sometimes in August, June, July, I don't know, of that summer, Rado, one of our also developer relations community managers guys, came up to me and said, well, we noticed you on Discord, you were helping people. I think what you're doing is okay. Would you like to come work with us? And I said, no. I mean, no way. I have a proper job. At the time I was leading a mobile team in a big company in Croatia. I had 8 programmers.
Project management or software? Were you writing code?
I was writing code and running the team. So basically I was having a proper programmer's job. And so I turned it down, but the seed was planted, and then the mainnet rolled around, and it actually proved that the system works and it actually has legs, and this thing can go places. So I came back and said, well, if you're still interested, I might be persuaded to come over, and that's how I came over to Ava Labs, and here I am.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I didn't realize that you had actually turned down an initial offering and then came back. So if we roll back a little bit, what is your computer science history? Do you have a degree, or how did you sort of? So
I have a CS degree.
Got it. And then what has the primary sort of tech stacks you've worked with in your career? Have you done web stuff, or what did you do before you?
Well, I initially started working before I even graduated. I was working on children's educational software. So there is a whole generation of children in Croatia that grew up learning letters and numbers on programs that I was making, literally.
That's epic.
And now those guys are going to college. So that was at the turn of the century, around 2000. Software was distributed on CDs, and it was.
What were you writing? Java? What was the language?
No, that was Windows.
Oh, wow, straight up Windows
C++.
APIs. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Windows APIs.
After that, we switched to Flash, and after that it was Android, and basically I was never working on web stuff directly.
Gotcha. So then I can suspect if you have a family, and especially, it was probably a big deal for you to transition from your old, traditional study thing.
Yeah.
So how did that all go, and how did that feel? And did you have to like beg your wife for anything, or was it just like?
Well, I said to her, this is something that I would like to do, and let's see what happens. She supported me, so
awesome. Yeah, that's great. That's it. Like, that's the dream, of course. So one of the things we had kind of wanted to do is, as Connor said, we kind of don't wanted to just, right now there's obviously like a huge wave of people who are wanting to get into crypto. I see it myself. I get so many DMs. If you sent me a DM and you're watching this and I didn't get back to you, man, I'm so sorry. I'm really behind. I'm getting a ton of emails and Twitter DMs and Telegram DMs. Everybody wants to get into crypto, and it's not just engineering, right? There's a ton of other people who want to get in across the board. So one of the things, as Connor mentioned, we wanted to touch on is we kind of just wanted to theme this episode at large, getting that job in crypto, because everybody wants to do it. And so I think, to me, because I do a lot of interviewing, and so do both of the other people in this call, to me, actions speak so much louder than credentials. I am not a credentialist. I don't have any credentials, so that's probably why, but I am not a credentialist. I'm not anti-credentialist. If you come to me and you got a master's or a PhD, I'm definitely duly impressed. But if you come to me and you don't have any credentials, or if you've never worked in crypto or something, it's not a negative to me, because the best education in the world is really online. And if you're the kind of person who is into continuous learning and you're passionate and you get up every single day and you can, get the ball across the finish line, then it doesn't really matter if you have credentials, especially at the pace of change, how fast things are changing. So to me, whenever people open up the conversation about joining crypto, really what I like to see is their actions, right? If they're a developer, I like to see if they've got some repos I can check out. If they're not a developer, I like to see if they're going to the meetups, or if they're, in what ways they're dialed in. So maybe I'll toss the ball to both of you guys. If I am reaching out to you, cold calling, and I want to join your team, what are the kind of pros, the tips that you can give me to do, and then the pitfalls that I can avoid? Let's start with Jovica.
Well, basically, I would suggest, do not start with a cold call. Start by doing the job. So most in crypto, most everything is open source. So you can always go look up the project's GitHub and see what projects what repos they have, see what open issues they have, and try to contribute something. The main thing I think would be to prove your value before you even start talking to them. If I come talking to you, well, I'm this and that, I worked in programming here, I worked in programming there, I mean, that's okay. But if you can say, I solved this issue on GitHub, I have three PRs right now in reviews on your repos, that carries much more weight than just your resume.
And so when you say don't do the cold call, are you okay with the cold call once they have something, or in your world would
Sure.
you rather find them?
Sure, but ideally they would come to you. But if you really have your sights set on a certain company, then it's okay to contact them. But the main thing I would say is prove your worth before you get into the conversation.
And what are ultra red flags to you?
I don't know.
If nothing comes to mind immediately, maybe just stew on the idea a bit. Connor, how about you? What are some tips and pros and cons if somebody were to just reach out to you?
So, I mean, first of all, I think we're talking a little bit from a developer perspective. It's easiest to show your work as a developer, but not necessarily just as a developer. But when somebody reaches out to me, there's different types of DMs you get. Some are just like, can you help me? Can you give me a job on your team? Or can you tell me how to get a job in crypto? Something like that. And I've tried to respond to those. Thankfully, I'm have achieved only micro celebrity, internet celebrity status, micro influencer. So I don't get, I get enough DMs.
You're like a C-grade celebrity.
Oh, no, D.
Oh, D, really? Nah. Okay.
Yeah.
C minus.
I get people DM me out of the blue because, I have enough followers they get that. But thankfully, it's enough where I can actually still mostly respond to people. Sometimes I get overwhelmed, and I try to. But, very quickly, I can reach a point where I can't necessarily respond to everybody the same way. And so I'm personally, and everybody else that receives DMs as well, goes through the same thing of, you have to prioritize of like, is there value in me to responding to this? And I do get some value out of helping people, but it's a lot easier for me to respond to you if you do something for me. Not just like if you like send me an NFT or something that you made of me, but like if you provide some value to my life because you're working on the product, like Jovica said, of like I did these PRs, or you're showing that you're willing to put in the effort to do this, and that my time is not going to be wasted. That if I do try to give you some advice, do try to give you some help, that it's really going to be impactful. And those are the people that I want to help the most because they're actually going to benefit from it the most. So, showing any kind of dedication is super helpful. And that doesn't mean just saying like, if you answer this question, I'm going to put into practice everything you say for the next 6 months. And like, please, I promise that I'm going to do this work. I mean, that's not what we want. I mean, I think you can make the most impact that way, but that's not necessarily the only way to go about it. I think being able to see some kind of track record that you're interested and that you're willing to put in the work, I think is a huge positive. But let's say you're not a developer, that could look like anything. That could be just trying, if you're on like the business side, you could write a little bit about crypto and like your analysis of it and some of the partnerships, prove that you're like thinking about this. So it doesn't, if you can't necessarily contribute to the company's work, maybe think about like, what kind of things would I do at this company? You could try making YouTube videos about crypto. You could try explaining the company to somebody else. And if you can go through any of these processes, if you can just really demonstrate that you are passionate about the material, that you are knowledgeable about it, even if you don't necessarily have all of the technical skills, if you can just show that I'm not there yet, but I am on a trajectory where I'm going to get there and I'm going to surpass the skill that you're looking for and be super excellent. I mean, those are the perfect people that we want to, always be hiring.
Yeah, so I think what I got from there is, as a person who is reaching out, so if you're the person doing the cold calling, you want to have an awareness of the person that you're reaching out to. So for example, if you're hitting up, anybody on this call, if you're hitting up Connor, just number one, just have an awareness that you're hitting up somebody who's probably their schedule's pretty packed and your message is getting thrown into a trillion other. And so number one, how do you get signal greater than noise? And how do you do that in a way that's not obnoxious? And then how do you do it in a way that makes the ROI from their perspective worth it, right? So as he said, why would he do it? Why is it worth it to him? And that's actually, I think that's a really, really valid point, because I just speaking for myself, and I suspect it's the same for both of you guys, I just have so much going on that even adding another text conversation, as crazy as that seems, even adding another text conversation is like the straw that broke the camel's back. It may seem so small to just say, hey, I'm going to go ping Gabriel and I'll see what he says about this little thing. But man, you wouldn't even imagine that I do not have the capacity to even slide in another text conversation. And so I think that's one, is just to really have an appreciation of the person you're hitting up, and how can you get signal greater than noise, and how can you get the ROI from them. And then regarding red flags, so I guess to answer my question, what do I like, and what are pros and cons? So I would say, like, to me, if you can get somebody to introduce you, obviously that's going to go really, really far. If you can get somebody to vouch for you, or give you credibility in some way, that's going to cause your signal to like go way, way, way up higher than the noise. Because I'm going to say, wow, Connor took the time out of his day to introduce me to this dude. This dude must be worth my time to meet. That's not a strict requirement. And so, if you have to reach out to me without having somebody, that's perfectly fine, but that helps a lot. Because I'm an engineer, it obviously helps if you have, repos I can check out. But if you were to come to me and you were to say, like, I'm an engineer, I want to join your team, but I don't have any repos, that to me would probably be a really red flag, because everything is open source. And if you want to join a team, you should have probably played around with the tech at some point. So with regards to joining my team, I would expect you to have some Avalanche JS gists, where you're playing around with Avalanche JS. I would expect you to have fired up, Avalanche Go with either Avash or the local network runner, maybe used our Postman collection. To me, that would make sense to familiarize yourself with the technology. And with regards to straight red flags, I think I think the biggest red flags to me are probably if I can get a sense that a person is not going to be able to sort of roll with the punches and solve the problem in another way. If I find that somebody's perhaps too attached to one solution or one tech stack, just the way things work, where we, in our particular field of work, things just move so fast and things change so quickly that, in 6 months from now, the world is going to be a totally different place. So if you meet somebody and they absolutely are tied to JavaScript and they're just unwilling to learn TypeScript, no, man, I don't need it. JavaScript's good enough. It may or may not be, but the point is your mind open enough to learn another tool? Do you have the plasticity in your brain where you can learn another tool? Because I think that's absolutely critical. And if you want to have longevity in this career, again, speaking as an engineer, you absolutely must be willing to learn new stuff all the time. You have to approach every single task with like that childlike wonder of just saying, wow, this is as cool as it was on the very first day. So,
as they say in software engineering, if you're doing the same thing for 2 years, you're late for something.
Yeah, exactly.
So that ties into a question that I get all the time. Is it too late to join crypto? And I guess some people ask me this from various perspectives. Sometimes they ask me, like, as a Web 2 developer, is it too late to join a crypto company? A lot of times the other answer is it too late for me to learn to code and enter crypto straight away or get a software job? And what do you guys think about that?
Go for it.
Well, if the person was never really a programmer before, I mean, that first depends how old they are and what they did previously. So if you have an engineering mind and problem-solving mindset, then you can probably catch up and be a pretty competent developer in maybe not that soon. But if you were a programmer in any other language and fairly proficient at it, then you probably wouldn't have that much problem switching over once you get the few basic concepts of distributed applications and how they work.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, see, my path to this whole thing is a little bit unorthodox. I studied music in college. So that was a long time ago. I'm 40 now, right? So when I went to college, when I was 18, 19, and 20, I studied classical music, not software at all. I didn't grow up writing code. I had a computer in my house. I used to hang out on IRC, but I didn't, I wasn't super into my computer during high school. I studied music. I played music in my 20s. Yes, cliche. I wanted to be a rock star. It wasn't until I found out that I was going to be a father when I was 26 that I just pivoted overnight and just really started writing software. And I learned, I went to school. I took some classes at a local college for about 2 semesters. And so I don't have any degrees or anything like that. But I was able to do it because the passion was there and I had some experience doing, I often wonder, I feel like the same skill that led me to be able to geek out and study music theory is the same exact skill that I use when I'm doing software engineering. To me, it's the same. I really do get the same creative high as writing code that I do from playing music. It scratches the same itch for me because it just allows me to really, really go deep with something that's thought out really well with the theory, but then to be able to improvise on it and to be creative with it. And it's the same thing you do with music and art or anything, right? It's anything where there's some classical skill that you can learn the theory of, and then you just get to go add your special flavor to it. So to me, I would say, I am of the opinion that it's not too late. It's never too late to learn, to even pick up software. And so what I say is, go online, learn some Udemy courses of JavaScript, learn some Udemy courses of Solidity, and then start hacking on some Avalanche JS stuff. And then you're probably going to be pretty close. Now you'll have to fill in the gaps, and things do get harder as you get older because you have a family and you have bills. It's just not the same when you're trying to do a startup at 40 as when you're at 20, because you have a different set of responsibilities, but it is entirely possible. And so, yeah, I would say to anybody out there who's wondering if it's too late, I would encourage you to say it's not too late. And the entire
if you have the passion to ask, is it too late? Then that's a positive signal.
right.
I mean, if your only motivation is, oh, crypto is blowing up, I need to make money,
Right.
then it's
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
be a chore. Your heart won't be in it, and you're not gonna be having good time. But if you're passionate about it, go for it.
And I would emphasize that there's a lot of different opportunities for software development in crypto. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities for literally every kind of job in crypto, but in software development specifically, you can want to do smart contracts, and you can be an okay smart contract developer and still make really cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't have to be the world's greatest programmer to be an incredibly successful Web3 developer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the people designing Uniswap v4 and the next hyper efficient decentralized exchange, probably, you know, you need to be a very strong programmer who really understands how, you know, dApps and how Solidity works at a very fundamental level. But if you're just minting an NFT collection, you can basically copy some open source code, mess with some parameters, and deploy a collection very safely.
Plus, as you mentioned, there's just so much other work to do. Like when you and I started working on the marketplace together, Connor did all the Web3 stuff, I did all the Web2 stuff. There's so much stuff to do just around the Web2 stuff that's also the opportunities. So to work at, we'll use Ava Labs as an example, but I suspect most companies are like this. To work at Ava Labs, you don't necessarily need to be the best Web3 developer in the world. You just have, as Jovica said, you kind of just need to have an understanding of the fundamentals of sort of computer science and programming. Like every language has variables, everyone has booleans, everyone has a for loop, right? It's like these same abstractions are across any language, and it's why you're able to see programmers jump from framework to framework and you're like, oh my god, that dude's a genius. Not really. It's just like, it's not that hard to jump from JavaScript to Swift. Sure, there's a ton of stuff that's different, but there's also a ton. The Venn diagram, there's like a big overlap. And so if you sort of know these fundamental skills, there's so much value you can add to a startup. Because one of the things that startup is like everybody wears whatever hat's available. If there's a task that needs to be done, you pick up the hat and you put it on and you push the ball forward. And so in that regard, if you're working on a team which is doing Web3 stuff, I guarantee you there's an ocean's worth of Web2 stuff also. And so you can help there, and you can be learning your software skills and getting your groove on there, and then you can be learning the Web3 stuff. So one of the cool things about Web3 is just that it's all so new. I suspect they are teaching it in colleges by now, but the best way to learn it is to do it. And you can learn it by being on a team. I've learned more about Web3 just working at Ava Labs and working on projects like the NFT marketplace than I did previously just trying to study, because when there's money on the line and when there's obligation, you will get the problem solved, right? And so I think that's another thing that's probably just worth pointing out. You don't necessarily have to be a Web3 expert to get a meaningful and productive job at a Web3 company. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we should talk a little bit more about some of the other roles that we have, and also the different types of companies that you can work at. Ava Labs is definitely more on the institutional side of the spectrum. You know, if we have things go like completely degen on one side to like Goldman Sachs on the other, we're probably closer to Goldman Sachs than we are to complete degen. So I guess what's an example? I guess maybe we'll say like Sushi Swap, or actually even Sushi Swap is more so, I don't know, where your favorite meme coin rug pull, totally disorganized DAO. Like if that's one end of the spectrum, Goldman Sachs is the other. Just like maybe not even, maybe like IBM or something. Somebody like super old, super corporate, GM. I don't know, General Electric. One of those Google. Fortune 500 companies. You know, where do we fall in the spectrum? And I would say every one of those companies. Yeah, there's a Web3 opportunity at every point in that spectrum, because all of the old players are also looking to get into Web3. You can join a Discord and work on a project, launch your own project that's an NFT project that's you and a couple people, or you could launch your own stable coin that's you and a couple people, or maybe just you. And you know, there's all kinds of opportunities. There are more formalized companies working at the very, you know, that are startups working at the more degen side of the NFT space, some place like Pangolin, or I guess, or Sushi Swap, or people that are trying to be legitimate, that actually have real structure. Uniswap is another one of these people that might be taking on venture capital.
Yeah, that was the other thing I wanted to sort of weigh in on. This is the other sort of dimension to this is the stage of the startup's life, or the stage of the company. So is this an early stage startup, or is this like a traditional, 30,000?
It doesn't necessarily have to be a startup. So a job in crypto could mean anything. So
right.
Like I saw today, Twitter is hiring a head of Web3, I think, or something like that.
Yep.
So there's different opportunities, because as when IBM wants to go into the blockchain space, or IBM's already in the blockchain space, but yeah, when Google's trying to figure out their blockchain presence, when Amazon is trying to figure that out, there's opportunities there. When Goldman Sachs, they're going to need blockchain people too.
Yep.
At various different levels. Some they need financial analysts. Sometimes they need business people with connections in the space. Sometimes they need developers,
project managers, designers.
Yeah, project managers. So I think our advice has been very much geared towards the kind of like startup scene. But I do want to say that if you are not into that kind of life, there are still other opportunities in crypto as well. You just have to look for them, and they're not as popular because they're not as trendy. Mm-hmm. But you certainly can go and work for a big company and go through a more traditional hiring process. Because I know one maybe negative piece of feedback I would give, some of the advice that we've given so far is that sometimes my work is my job, and then in my free time, I don't necessarily just want to hop on GitHub all day and do open source projects, because I have a life, And so that was something that I faced a lot in college, especially, was it felt to me like there was this expectation that I needed to work my 40-hour job, and then somewhere in college, more like my 60-hour job. And then somehow find some extra time to develop some projects or whatever that would be impressive enough for recruiters. And I could never really get over that hump. Mm-hmm. And that isn't necessarily how I got in. And how I think everybody on my team has got in hasn't been because they have huge portfolios of open source work. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of it is they've just been doing really great technical work at the jobs they've been doing. Mm-hmm. And they really understand distributed systems, and they really understand how to build good software. Mm-hmm. And they honestly don't have that much. They didn't have that much blockchain experience. They had a lot of blockchain interest, right, but I knew that they were going to be top of their field. They're top of their field now. And I figure that somebody who's top of their field now can learn and become. And
that's pretty much everybody, right? It's very hard to find good engineers. You really you oftentimes you have to grow them yourself. I've heard you say that, Connor. You can say it much more articulately than me. I heard you say to somebody, you really need to grow your own engineers. Can you touch on that?
Yeah. I mean, especially for smart contract engineers, I think the opportunity is available to highly competent smart contract engineers right now are at least in the 10 million per year range. Yep. You can make lots and lots of money if you are the best smart contract developer.
If you really know your shit in Web3 and Solidity, you can in fact go. Why wouldn't you just go do your own startup? So go ahead.
Yeah. So because the cost of getting somebody who's at their top of the game and knows it is so high, no companies can afford this. Especially because the only way to, kind of get this, tons of equity in a company like this is to invest or to join when it's not valued very high. And then as the valuation increases, then you have a very high stake. So, if you can't pay people tens of millions straight up, the only way to get people who are at the top of their game is to identify people who are not at the top of the game, but will shortly be. And so the only way to actually get the best talent in an affordable way is to, grow your own talent and to find people who have lots of potential and, try to grow that potential as much as you can. And so that's, when I look for smart contract developers, that's exactly what I'm looking for, because I know that I'm not going to get all of the Ethereum OGs, the people who are really good that are working on some of these MEV problems and all these really deep smart contract optimizations. They can make way more money than I can pay them just doing MEV strategies. And so, that lifestyle is not for everybody. I mean, I'm sure there's some people who are highly confident that don't want to go out on their own. But in general, you have to. I think the key with any kind of talent is finding people before they're ready, and helping them take that step.
This is such a young engineering field that you simply cannot go on a hiring expedition and expect to get people that have 3 years of Solidity experience. There are a couple of hundred guys that have 3 years of Solidity experience, and they all won't go work for you. So you need to be ready to get people who are not experts at Solidity, but are generally good programmers. That's the main thing. Whenever I used to do a lot of hiring in my previous companies, and I never turned down people because they didn't know technologies that we were working with. Every competent engineer can pick up a good technology in a month or two. So you're hiring people to be with you for years, not for a couple of months. So giving them a couple of months to get up to speed on your tech stack, it's a no-brainer. So don't be discouraged if you don't already have a big library of projects to show in Web3. Show whatever you did, and if you're good at it, you'll get an opportunity.
Yeah. So
I think that's. I was going to say that's a fantastic point that you made of just nobody has 5 years of experience doing this. I mean, Ethereum came out in 2015. Nobody has been writing the number of people that have been writing smart contracts since then. It's like Vitalik.
Actually, just how fast things have changed. Think how fast things are. Just in the past 2 years, there's been so much innovation that even the people who have been doing it since 2016, 17 are still in a rush to learn everything. And I just wanted to highlight, this should actually be encouraging to you if you're out there right now listening to this and you have engineering. I'm an engineer, man, so I keep coming back to the engineer. Please, forgive me, but if you're an engineer and you're wanting to get into the crypto space and you are feeling discouraged because you're thinking, damn, dude, I don't have the Solidity experience. They're not going to talk to me at Ava Labs. Actually, hear what we're saying. Hear what Connor just said. We are looking for people who have the engineering skills and are almost at the peak of their game that we can help on ramp into being to the peak of their game. Because like he said, it's challenging to go out and find people who do have those skills and hire them. So really the prime target of what we're looking for is an engineer who is good, but doesn't have those skills yet. And that way we can help grow them into that. So hopefully this encourages you. If you're hearing this, instead of being discouraged, you should say, oh, hell, that's me. I'm the dude they're looking for. And then reach out.
Have you guys ever applied for a job where you felt like you were qualified? Because for me, honestly, it's just, you look at the qualification, and people don't talk about this enough. That you look at, there's a list of 5 skills there, and you're like, okay, I have 2 of them. And I've heard of the other one.
Imposter syndrome. Do you guys suffer from imposter syndrome? Let me define, as I see it, imposter syndrome is that feeling where you're like, how the hell am I here right now? Or, I don't deserve to be here. I guess it's kind of like, well, I think I described it well, like imposter syndrome, when you're kind of just like, do I deserve to be on this team? Do you guys ever suffer from that or no?
Well, for me, the experience of being a developer, there are basically 2 states. One is I'm on top of the world and I'm crushing it. And the other is I have no idea what's going on here.
Yes.
And then you flip from one to the other. So either you're crushing it or you're totally lost and don't know what to do next. But then you muddle through, and bit by bit you get back to the I'm crushing it bit.
Yes.
But that's just the nature of
the reason I mentioned is because in my opinion, it's easy for me to have imposter syndrome. So let me just speak. The reason I mentioned it is because I want to encourage people out there who may feel imposter syndrome to say everything is moving so quick that really the best thing to do is to have both a breadth of knowledge and a depth of knowledge, and to appreciate that you can't know everything. And knowledge, I'm about to fall down the cliche mountain here, but knowledge is like climbing a mountain, right? And it's hard, you're focused right here. And then when you get to some type of peak, you feel super jazzed, and then you look around and you see all the other peaks that are so much higher, and you realize I'll never be able to climb every single peak, right? And so the thing I've realized is you really need to have a breadth of knowledge, but then you should have a depth of knowledge. You should specialize a little bit. And then most importantly, you need a team, right? So if you have everybody who's reached their own little peaks and you can kind of leverage and use other people's skills, then that's the best way to play it at this particular moment, because there's just too much. The scope of everything is just so huge that you absolutely have to be able to leverage other people's skills.
And I want to kind of jump in. I think Jovica made a fantastic point about the cycle of feeling like you know everything and feeling like you know nothing. Because I think that was definitely me. When I started out at my job, I felt totally underqualified. Then I launched Pangolin, then I felt on top of the world. Then Pangolin had some issues. Then I kind of, definitely have had peaks and valleys. Now I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot, feeling on top of the world. But the thing that gets me is just the pace of change and how quickly things come. And then you put your heads down and work for a month, and it turns out now there's DeFi 2.0 and you don't know what it is. And it's very humbling to just constantly have your entire ecosystem reinvented out from under you. And if you take a break from Twitter and don't read every news article for a few weeks, you feel left behind.
Oh, dude, so now there's Spaces VM. Now there's a whole new VM. There's a whole new paradigm. So that's the thing that's going to be cool about.
We don't even use the C chain anymore.
Yeah, the cool thing about subnets is that each subnet's going to be its own paradigm. So just this recently, this last week, a new VM launched on a new subnet. By the way, that's really exciting. We should mention that, at least we're on the subnet show. A new subnet launched on the Avalanche network, and it's called Spaces VM, and it's a key store. It's a key value store. I'll give you the exact terminology.
We need a new segment. We need like the weekly subnet update.
Yeah. So Spaces VM is an authenticated hierarchical key value store with EIP 712 compatibility, state expiry, and fee-based metering. And then there's even a token, SPC. It's the native token for Spaces VM. So basically, you can create your own space, Gabriel space, and then you can have like a hierarchy of key values. And it's pretty powerful. I think, key value is like one of the most primitive abstractions in all of computer science. And think about how many different key value libraries there are, right? There's so many different ways to do key value. And I wonder, what are people going to do with this? And what is the potential for Spaces VM? I'm not trying to fall down the rabbit hole here, but I wanted to at least mention it in the context of what Connor was saying. Now there's all this new stuff, DeFi 2.0. I haven't had a chance to check it out. Well, now there's even another thing. There's a whole new subnet with a whole new VM, and every single subnet that launches on Avalanche is going to have its own thing. And so, coming up to speed on all of them is going to be a chore.
And I'll say, you don't need to know everything. This is the thing. It's impossible. There's too much stuff coming out all the time. And you might feel like, wow, I'm starting now. Not only do I have to keep up with the pace of change, I now, as a beginner, have to learn what the hell happened over the last 6 years. I got a DeFi 2.0. I don't even know DeFi 1.0. So, don't worry about that. What I would say is just kind of, once you kind of decide your interest, try to, read some of the most major news stories, but I would say maybe pick one thing and try to learn that one thing really well. And I think this is just a really great thing you can do, is just try to specialize. And this doesn't have to be your life thing, but if you're just trying to get a foothold in the industry, if you're just looking for that any single chance, just figure out one thing and try to understand that really well, because no one thing changes that often. If you want to understand DEXs, try to understand how Uniswap works. If you want to do DeFi, pick DEXs, look at lending protocols, look at Aave, if you want to do DAOs, look at some of the different governance structures. Look at how governance tokens have done. Uniswap, again, they have a governance token. Compound has a governance token that they kind of invented. There's tons of other areas you could look at. You could look at NFTs. You could look at social tokens. You could look at payments. So just find something that interests you and try to understand that really well. Don't get caught up in the constant new stuff unless you find one of the new things that's super cool. Feel free to go down that rabbit hole, but don't worry about learning the entire history of Ethereum and Avalanche and Cardano and Near and figure out exactly what order everything came out in. You don't have to worry about. You don't necessarily need to catch up on the Bitcoin block size debates. It's history for a reason. Nobody else knows it. Not that many people care. This is the thing. You're not too late. Don't worry about that. Don't be intimidated.
Yeah.
And it's not that important in the long run. If you're interested in it, there's books being written on it, literally.
Yeah. I have another good piece of advice, and this is more general. Be a team player. So I can't emphasize how important that is. Obviously, if you're trying to join a team, you want to be a team player, but really it just helps to be humble, right? It helps to be humble. It helps to anticipate what the needs are, right? So skate to where the puck is going, that kind of thing. Um, it helps if you're willing to take on whatever work nobody else wants to do, right? So like if the first day you show up on the team, right, just go back and start going through all the bugs and find the gnarliest ones or the oldest ones or whatever. It helps to have continuous learning. So, you're going to want to, again, work-life balance is ultra super critical, and burnout is a real thing. So, you don't want to make this your entire life. You want to just have a continuous learning, and you want to be always sort of understanding where your skill set is going in the next phase. And I think just you also want to be just friendly. You're right. You want to be somebody who's easy to get along with. You don't want to have a huge ego. So I just kind of want to point out those things as well. You really do just want to be a team player. And like, if you are really competent at what you do, and if you really bring value, there is a team out there that needs your help right now, because every single team out there that's actually doing something is just like drowning in work, right? And drowning in opportunity, especially in our space, in the Web3 space, in the blockchain space. Things are just so big, and the opportunity is so crazy huge, and there's just so much going on that, of course, we need help. We absolutely need more competent people to show up and help. And so I can assure you that if you are competent and you're hardworking and you're friendly and you don't have huge ego, like if you can do all these things, there's a team out there that absolutely will want you to join their team.
And I just want to second that. I mean, be nice is the most important thing you can do. It's not going to get you a job, but it can definitely cost you a job if you're not.
Well,
be
I
nice.
can speak from my experience. Well, one of the sticking points for me when just getting into crypto and learning the whole space is that there are so many toxic people in there, and that is one of the major points that made a difference for me in deciding to take the plunge and join Ava Labs. I gotten to know people from the team before I joined in. I spoke to Gabriel, I spoke to Dan, I spoke to Rado, and I spoke to all those people, and they were the kinds of people that could be fun to go out and have a beer with. And that's something that's really important. If you're somebody that's nice to get along with, that goes a long way, because one toxic people can drag down 10 other hardworking people. So,
and you're going to be putting in some crunch time.
Also yeah.
You're going to be spending some time with these people, and then you're going to be having high pressure situations, especially if you're dealing with value bearing assets and stuff. And so yeah, it really helps if the person is not a jerk. Absolutely, 100%. You guys, I can't believe it.
It's such a I was gonna say it's such a small world too, that just like you might think you're just talking shit about some random person on Twitter.
Yeah.
But I have DMs from CEOs of companies that you've heard of that have just shit talked me for no reason. And I remember, know exactly who it is. And I'm going to see that person at a party eventually, like when the world opens up again. Yeah, like, keep that in mind. But, if you made it this far, if you're this interested, this is, there's so much opportunity out there, and it's ripe for the taking. And there's never been a time where there's fewer gatekeepers than they are now. And the other thing of getting a job in crypto might just be doing your own thing. Don't necessarily feel constrained to join a company. This is also one of the most freeing times where you can actually start your own. If I were starting over today, I would probably do my own thing, honestly.
Yeah, there is a ton of capital, man. There's infinite money out there right now, and value, is part of the Web3 thing. So, you get it out of the box, you issue your own token, and all of a sudden you've raised capital. So yeah, that's a really good point to point out, is that there is an opportunity to do your own thing. And if you can't find a fit with a team, then yeah, potentially consider doing your own thing. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, if you don't like any of the advice we gave, feel free to try something else, because we're not necessarily we know one way to do things.
Mhm.
But there's an infinite other ways. And like I said, there's so many opportunities at so many different parts of the space of like, there are super credentialists who, if you just have the right degree, maybe they'll just hire you if you impress them. So don't be afraid. Take the plunge. If this is something that you really want, this is absolutely the best time ever to make it happen. You're not too late.
Mm-hmm.
You're not too early either. There's so many opportunities for real success, whether at a company or on your own. This isn't 2017. I mean, even though we might be heading into a mini bear market, I don't think the only people who would think that we're actually maybe trending down, or crypto might not recover, are people who are absolutely not paying any attention.
Right.
Because if you look at what's on the roadmaps, look at the number of people building, you look at the products that are about to launch. I mean, without leaking any alpha, Ava Labs has a monster 2022 planned, and we're going to have a monster 2023, regardless of the market.
Yes.
And every other company is like this. Everybody's building, everybody's excited, everybody's coming over from Web 2, everybody quit their jobs. If you think the peak of crypto is behind us, you've lost your mind. The peak is absolutely in front.
Yes. Connor's fired up today, boy. Yeah, keep going.
There's no better time. So what are you waiting for? And I think, don't tell yourself, I'll do it in 6 months. Don't, start now. Pick one small thing that you can do. And, whether that's trying to learn some solidity, just trying to learn more about crypto, listening to a podcast like this, reading my pinned tweets and trying to understand some of the lessons, is writing some explainers yourself, doing some marketing materials for a DAO, creating memes. All these things are skills. And, no matter like where you want to land in the stack, whether it's business, whether it's marketing, whether it's lawyers, there's so many opportunities to be crypto lawyers, crypto accountants that people just aren't taking advantage of. So if you're not in a traditional software field, it's going to be everywhere. There's no person that's not going to be able to leverage this to help their career in some way, via NFTs, via social tokens, even if it's not necessarily a typical tech job. There's, it's going to be a whole ecosystem. It's like trying to find an internet job. Nobody's job was not affected by the internet. And this is going to be the same way. So start today. Don't wait.
Well, that was beautiful. Yeah, that was beautiful. All right, guys. Somehow it's been an hour. I don't know where in the world the time went. I can't believe it. Jovica, why don't you hit us with your Twitter?
So you can find me at jpop_32.
JPOP_.
Yeah.
And on Discord, if you come, I think that's probably the best place to reach you. Hop in the Avalanche Discord, say hi, ask how to set up a validator node.
You got any last thoughts, Jovica? You want to shout out anybody or last thoughts?
No, just it's been an honor to be here, and
thanks for joining us, dude.
See you guys later.
Yeah. Awesome. Connor, last thoughts?
Yeah. So it was an absolute pleasure having you on. Welcome back anytime. Mm-hmm. But you can, for those of you who want to hear more from me, you can find me on Twitter. I'm DAS_Connor, DAS_CONNOR. Also, I do own the DAS Connor _space on the Spaces subnet.
Sweet.
So if anybody's freaking out, they didn't get their actual name. So this is just supposed to be like a tech demo, testnet Spaces VM. Maybe there'll be a real Spaces VM one day. No promises. That's totally production ready. So yeah, don't freak out if you didn't get your name just yet. There will be more time.
Yes. Okay, so thank you. My name is Gabriel Cardona. As you know, you can follow me on Twitter, CG Cardona, CGCARDONA. I'm also on Discord, so if you guys jump in there and say what's up to Jovica, say what's up to me as well. And so yeah,
and if you liked the Subnet show, you should make sure to follow us on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. We're also available as a podcast. Some of our recent episodes have been, talking about Avalanche subnets and what they are and what they can do. We've also recently interviewed our CEO of Ava Labs, Gunsir, as well as in our last episode, we talked to Anthony from Encode Club, talking about how he sees how he trains blockchain developers. And we have a fantastic backlog talking to so many people in the Avalanche ecosystem. So if you've made it this far, there's tons of great content that you can go check out, learn about different projects, learn about different aspects of DeFi, and yeah, keep listening to Subnet Show.
That's it. All right, y'all. We'll see you next week. And as we always say, from Snowflake to Avalanche and through consensus to the stars. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Peace.